still chuckling.
Yeah, you are.
I am.
You
Is
like
that okay?
Sure.
Do you think anybody else saw the Twitter exchange? It was magnificent.
Yeah,
Welcome, by the way.
seems like it's.
By the way, with that
insane.
Twitter exchange, I can now welcome you to the rest of us.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
well, my initiation happened probably a good 20 years ago in terms of being called names like this.
The guy-
Yeah, it's always
the
it's
guy-
always a good reminder.
The guy called you a blank hole. It was tremendous. The guy asked, Hayes said
I
that
probably deserved it.
Todd Wash said that Jalen Ramsey will travel with Tyreek Hill next week. Most of us knew that meant he'll be in man coverage all over the field, the other side. But a Titans fan, Titans Forever or something like that, said, "Hey, what do you mean he'll travel with him?" To which Hayes essentially responded. Will you share with us what you responded?
I will be happy to if I can
Can you
remember
find-
what it
I can
was.
paraphrase, but I'm not-
But
Hayes told Titan fan.
first off, yeah, it was the guy.
Oh.
It's Titans Nation, and it's at True Titans Fan 8. So again,
Why is a Titans fan following you?
I mean, why would you care? But anyway, so yeah, he says, what do you mean he's going to travel with Tyreek? And I just some you just can't lay off of. And so I responded, it means they're going to follow you two together through Europe, which he did not like.
And he responded by saying
but
what?
many people did.
Don't say the word, but he responded by saying what?
He says, LOL. I was just asking, no need to be.
A blank
A
hole.
jerk.
I thought it was crazy. I said, "Hey, Carolina might be the nicest person I know. Just called an a-hole, and it made me laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been kind of giggling ever since.
It
so
was all in peace and love. Peace and love.
That was your response. And when we sent around our show text, I made sure I had did it. I thought that should lead the show, so we just did. So I'm very proud of it. I don't know that the show's gotten off to a better start than that one. So.
Maybe Titans fans don't know what it means to have a cornerback travel and follow a receiver. Is that possible?
I
They don't
think
know enough
it's,
about football?
I think you're onto something.
You didn't have to be a jerk. I was just asking. That was.
And I would have felt bad if it was like ended up being like a 8-year-old kid, but I'm pretty sure this isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
We have bigger problems
yeah.
than
But let
8-year-old
me-
kids
but-
using that
But
word.
let me just say
Right.
this: if
on
the 8-year-old,
Twitter.
but if the 8-year-old kid called you that, I'd respect him
Yeah,
too. Just
yeah.
saying. So there's more respect.
No,
given
they
on
should
it.
get their mouth cleaned out with
Oh,
soap.
that's fantastic.
yeah, I would have thought that was a fairly common phrasing in
Of
football
course it
if
is.
you've
Right.
been watching football. And you know, to your point though, maybe they haven't had a defensive back that would warrant travel.
Last year, their secondary was nicknamed "My Man Catches No Balls." That's what the Tennessee secondary was nicknamed.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah, we had a little fun.
We did.
We
with
did.
that.
So, hey, I did.
Now the Jaguars need to do is beat them.
Yeah,
and
That
then
would
this
be nice.
whole
That would work.
yeah, making fun of them would be
'cause-
even sweeter.
Yeah, because if they don't, my guess is Titans Forever or whatever his name is coming back to you.
Keep
okay,
coming.
okay, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, you know what we need to start doing, and I'm gonna start a campaign. And you guys can come on board if you want or not. I do like starting campaigns, but I think with technology and space travel and all the things we have in our world, I think we can contain this now. We need to go ahead and stop having hurricanes.
Yeah.
Just let's not have them anymore. Do you agree
Where
with
do
that?
I sign this petition?
You agree with that?
I absolutely agree with it. I used to love when the hurricanes would come.
Yeah, they used
when
to
I was
get-
like
Party.
in college.
Yeah, they were-
It
hurricane
was
parties were
phenomenal.
When you,
great.
before you own anything
Yeah.
that you care about,
Right.
That's the problem.
responsibility
Yeah.
of other people,
But, yeah.
it's a reason to drink and take off work.
Right, exactly. But yeah, once you switch into the whole ownership of the
Responsibility.
property,
Yeah,
you
I-
really want that hurricane to swerve.
I said this to the guys at the handoff, I don't know if this qualifies for either of you two, but how much time in our lives will we spend this week reading texts from our significant other about the hurricane?
Oh, yeah.
I will tell you, hey, I think we should get the generator out. This thing looks like it's coming. Hey, I got the generator out. I think we need to get some gas.
Atta girl.
Hey, are you still comfortable with how to use it? I know we don't use it very often. Hey,
That's questioning your manhood right there.
hey, I found the generator handbook. Okay. Just to make sure, maybe give you just a little reminder. Hey, just left Walmart, they're running out of water. Do you have any of these I'm gonna read this week? This will be my life now from now until the weekend.
Yeah.
You have no idea, I have no idea how my phone, that will be my phone the rest of the weekend.
Was it the first hurricane you got to avoid because you were in
In
Houston?
Houston, I
or
did.
was that the second? No, that was the second hurricane, because Irma was 2017, and that coordinated with, or coincided with Harvey.
Right.
2016 was Matthew.
Right.
You were here for that,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Wow.
But you
Good.
got to avoid
Yeah.
Irma, thanks to.
But just like
Houston.
Joe Coward said at the handoff, I got this sweet new Honda generator from Nichols right up the road. Sweet generator. Pretty proud of it, very manly of me to get that. Filled it up with gas, used it a little bit, never used it again. It should still have the gas in it. I mean, I don't know, does the gas evaporate? What do I know? Does it?
It
is
will eventually go bad, but it takes a long time.
Okay, so I got all that going for, so that I've got going for me.
Right,
Just so
that's good.
just-
Generators are smart though, for real, as far as keeping food up,
Sure.
if you need to use the microwave, boil some water, all that fun stuff.
Well, thank you, I didn't know that. So is that how that works?
For you,
plug
it's watching television from the air conditioning.
We did use it the one time, it was fans, our TV, and a little refrigerator, you can't put a big refrigerator on it. I'm just dropping knowledge left and right is what I do around.
Well, in the
here.
last 24 hours, this thing has gone from being, I don't think it'll be a problem, to, oh boy, this
Yeah.
thing might, be a real big problem.
So the word, by the way, is, according to the cone, the most recent cone we've seen, is it could hit here, it's gonna hit Daytona or so, but is it Sunday, is Sunday the
It's
landfall day?
Probably more 8 AM Monday
Yeah,
is what the
so-
2 PM advisory has,
so-
which I have in front of me.
So I have.
Because I worked in the newspaper.
I have no doubt.
So I'm very familiar with finding this.
So
It's already upgraded from a tropical storm to a hurricane.
that I knew, so my question would be,
I never know what you know and don't know.
how likely, and I hear you, how likely will it, affect the game Saturday? Because Hacker asked a really intelligent question a minute ago, he said, has there been any conversation about moving it up earlier? And I would think that would be in play, to move it earlier in the day on Saturday if it looks like heavy rains are gonna come later in the day on Saturday, cause we've seen that happen over the years quite often.
Well, and the other thing too is evacuation. I think if this, I think they still have probably another 24 to 36 hours to watch it and see exactly what it does. But if this cone, stays where they have it now, and the timeline stays where they have it now, they will have to move this game.
Yeah.
There's no question about it, because it's not even just Jacksonville and how it affects, it's all the evacuations
Mhm.
that you have to take into consideration. You can't have 60,000 people leaving an event 24, 36 hours before. I mean, they are not, this advisory, the latest one, actually does move it towards, it's gonna be a major hurricane when it hits Florida.
Cat 3.
So that's the first time that's, even today in the 11 AM advisory, it had it becoming a major hurricane, but then by the time it got to Florida being a category 1 or 2, back to just a regular hurricane. Now the advisory has it, basically becoming a major hurricane Sunday morning and hitting Florida as a major hurricane, 8 AM Monday. So I just, again, I don't think they have to necessarily do it yet, but we get to probably, I would say, this time tomorrow, because Boise's gonna fly.
Well, that's the thing.
And they're gonna have to fly back, so I would think in about 24 hours, they're gonna have to make this call. But if this stays where this advisory says, then they will have to move this game up.
And remember,
Or
sorry,
move
go
it, or move it, period.
Remember all the first responders and security
Correct.
that games need too, and that pulls them away from their primary jobs, which is making sure that in the event a natural disaster occurs, they are ready and available. So I think that's the other problem with having a football game so close to a potential hurricane.
Yeah, and that's why that Florida LSU game wasn't played that
Right.
year. But here's the thing I thought about this too, Hayes and Lauren, the way football preparation goes, I don't necessarily think you could move it to Friday. I think because of travel, Boise's flying, Friday, you can't change your charter. It's hard to
Right.
get charters. Charters cost, what's a charter cost? A couple $100,000 probably, at least $100,000, I would think. So you can't just say, well, hey, charter guy, can you fly us on Thursday? So I don't think you can play the game Friday. I think your only option, and the field will have just been played, I don't even know if you can turn the stadium around that fast. There's a game here tomorrow night. So I don't think you can play it a day earlier. But instead of 7 o'clock at night, you certainly could play the game at 2.
Or noon.
Or noon. And the other option is not at all. I don't think they have a light date, by the way, as an open date. I don't think so.
And it's not a conference game.
So it could be a game you just don't play at all.
Or maybe December 5th.
Yeah, but I think FSU took a beating for doing that the one year. 2 years ago, whatever it was, so I'd be surprised if they did that. You never know. I mean, if you're FSU, you hope you might be in that game. Now,
Right.
again, you gotta be Clemson to do it, so a lot of thoughts to talk about. A lot of things to get to, we'll talk more about the hurricane, stuff if we learn more about it. My buddy Tony Baselli, his son Andrew, got a scholarship. Did you see that on Twitter?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was really cool. Andrew's a good kid. He's a really good kid. He's a smart kid. Had to learn, Tony will be the first to tell you how to navigate his way through college and get his head right in terms of being in college and playing football. Very good student, by the way. He's already graduated. So, and so he's gonna play, college football backup center at FSU, so that was a cool story. We'll certainly talk about the importance of this game for Florida State. That'll be one of our early stories. I got a different take on that. I'll get to that coming up, assuming they play them. Will Gator fans ever accept Felipe Franks? That's on our topic list today. We'll talk about that. We'll start with the Jags, as we always do. Interesting to me that Todd Wash was that forthcoming this early. I got a lot of thoughts about that. All done more. Glad you're with us. It's 1010 XL at 92.5 FM.
15 seconds, Lauren.
Okay.
Hastings Studio on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
For high school football play-by-play, it's 1010XL. I'm Coach Dolan of the Bold Bulldogs. Back at home this Friday against Miami Hialeah Lakes. Catch the play-by-play live at 7:30 on 1010 AM.
Renewal by Andersen windows are unlike any other home window on the market. They are 2 times stronger than vinyl, they never fog off, they're maintenance-free, and custom designed for you. Lauren Brooks here for Renewal by Andersen. They will send a highly qualified representative to your home for your consultation, and you will experience superior customer service throughout the entire process. Renewal by Andersen windows will keep you warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer, and quieter all year long. Plus, they are scientifically proven to stand the test of time. You're not just replacing your windows, you're increasing the value of your home. Visit renewalbyandersen.com to schedule your free in-home consultation. Renewal by Andersen, a better way to a better window. Take advantage of the semi-annual window and door sale with 20% off now. Restrictions apply. See the website for details. This is a limited time offer. License number CGC 1527613.
Florida Gator.
And go.
Florida football. Mayday for Sutton. In a major total of Bold Bulldogs.
I'll let you know, by the way, it won't be a lot of money, but I wanna make sure you guys get checks.
Oh.
It may be, honestly, it may be for the season, $600-700, which is a whopping $50 a week, but it's better than nothing.
Awesome, I appreciate
More than,
it.
it's more than last year's nothing, so.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you'll definitely.
The first time. That's why we say Darley's where quality counts. Visit us online at Darley's.
And it's a fun show to do it.
It's fun, yeah, absolutely. You do a great job guiding us through it.
Well, thank you, and likewise, the first time you did it, you obviously very natural at it, so thank you. It's a fun. It's a little TV's always fun, there's
Yeah,
little
it is.
wrestling on TV. My point about that in the meeting was, it's hard to have a meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
It's hard to have, it's hard, it's a lot of work and a lot of company resources.
Sure.
We're spending money, you're spending time, we need to, and every radio station always puts you guys on. You should have 5 to 8 minutes on every show, every week. You know, and this is our Jaguars report, I mean, we're not faking it.
Right.
Here at every practice, every game, I mean, we're not faking it.
Right.
You know, that's not, you know.
Your car or truck needs repair. Stop by and get a free second opinion.
With
So we got, we need to.
I'll be happy to do it.
No, I know. Yeah, if you're at home and Dan and Jeff call you at 8 o'clock, or after you get back and take a day or whatever, so.
Family owned and operated in Jacksonville, Orange Park, St. Augustine.
That's probably the one show that I'm like never on. Like Jaguars Today, certainly during training camp, it kind of, with them, it sort of spikes and ebbs and flows. I probably do XL primetime the most,
Yeah,
I would say.
talked about that. We don't know anything new about it.
But yeah, and
Dude, I'm the play-by-play voice of the team.
Saturday,
Right.
so if we
I'm never on
anything
this.
more
yeah, well, I think it's because, to be just from listening to them, it seems like Jeff, because he doesn't see anything, he doesn't go anywhere. It seems like he kind of relies on what he hears, because I think he listens to, from listening to him, I think he listens to us.
There's no question.
And so,
I think that's it.
yeah,
But I mean,
so I think it's probably hard for him to be like, well, if I have him on the show, then it's gonna show,
Maybe, but,
you know.
I just don't think they.
what's that? Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure that's part of it
Marco and I
too.
used to talk with breakfast on our show.
Yeah.
I'm in the West.
Right. Yeah, nothing.
I work with Dan TV.
Right.
And never know. Think about it, the
Yeah,
Masters.
yeah, that's a
We
good
got a
point.
guy at the Masters.
It's a universal thing, yeah.
So, well, I was telling Dave, I think he should be on all the shows, he said the one who's never been called down was the morning show.
Oh, yeah,
And I said, I'm the play-by-play voice of the team,
right.
and I've never been invited to a morning show, morning drive, talk on the game. I'm the play-by-play voice of the team, you know?
That's probably another thing that should be highlighted.
Who would, well, who would want to play the voice?
Right,
You know, by the way, I'm on morning shows all over the country.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, you know, I promise you, I'll be on 2 shows in Kansas City next week,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Now, Jaguars today does a good job of using you during training camp, but do they do it all
They
year
use it
long?
too.
That's what I was saying, like Jaguar State is pretty good.
Okay.
It's more like peaks and valleys.
Yeah, which is to be
But,
expected.
yeah, like it might be 3 times in 3 weeks,
Yep.
and then it might not be for like 6, 7 weeks.
We need to,
Which is
all right, here we go,
pretty
guys.
good.
Brag about the fact that we have a report. Now, I wanna brag about the fact that we took the time to do this. That's what I think.
Hey, what's up,
You know,
Taylor?
That's what I would.
This came for you. I don't know if you want me to give it to Michelle or.
Oh, yeah, thank you, okay. It can go to Michelle, okay, I just asked if we got it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And he dropped it off earlier and I'm like, hid it so no one just saw it sitting there.
Perfect, thank you so much.
It's a kitchen and flooring design center Wednesday on the Frangie Show. It's an XL 92.5 FM.
Hey, since our last segment, the update, hey, I went ahead and got gas at Daly's, but when do you think we should bring the patio furniture in? You think I'm kidding?
No?
That's awesome.
I think the next text will
Okay.
be, I have already brought the patio
Right, it will be.
furniture in.
I'm telling you, this is since last time now, okay? And it's not like she's listening to the show and trying to be funny, she's
Yeah, yeah.
not listening to the show, okay? She
Right.
just, so the patio furniture, when do we bring the patio furniture in is the next, this will be 3 days worth.
Do you have enough canned goods?
No, that'll be the next text though. I just, hey, I went up, picked up some canned goods.
Where are those D batteries we
Yeah,
bought the
but
last
I'm
time?
just- Oh, my wife, there's
Flashlights,
I'm
batteries.
surprised there's anybody else in Jacksonville that has batteries. We have more batteries in that home.
That's the one thing Carrie locks in on, are the
No,
D batteries.
Right.
And it's like, because we have this lantern that we bought 15 years ago.
Right.
Um,
So I will get this on a regular basis, without question. Okay, so, Todd Wash, very forthcoming today. You can tell there's a confidence in that building. Can you sense that?
Oh, yeah.
There's a confidence, which I like. So Todd Wash says, yeah, Jalen's gonna travel with Tyreek Hill in week 1. Number 1, I believe him. Number 2, I would do that too. I think you've got the best cornerback in the league. If you're playing against one of the best receivers in the league, you should do it. Now, they match up kind of funny, cause Jalen's a big, physical, tall, angular cornerback, and Tyreek Hill's a quick little receiver. You know, it's not like he's playing Julio Jones or AJ Green, who he looks like he would match up well with. You know, he's got different body shape. A smaller, quicker receiver, but I like it. But there's a little gamesmanship here too. There's a psychological place, don't you think? I mean, otherwise, your DC would just say, well, you know, we've got a lot of things we can do with Jalen. We've got he's such a good player that we've got a lot of options. That is DCing 101. We got a lot of options. We're not sure how we'll play it yet. You'll see on
We
game
got a lot
day.
of good cornerbacks.
We've got
They have more than one good wide receiver.
yeah, right, he said, now he's gonna travel with him. So, it's almost like Jake Taylor telling the batter, what do you think about the old number 1?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Did that run through your mind a little bit when you heard him say it?
I was really surprised at it, just to give people sort of a lay of the land at this event. you know, like Tom Coughlin spoke, and then they announced that AJ Boye was the Community Service Award winner for his great work.
Tell what people with the event. The event's kind of their fan.
Yeah, their
or
kickoff
sponsor.
luncheon.
The kickoff
yeah.
luncheon for
it's
sponsors.
it's a big gathering of people.
A lot of sponsors.
There's like 55, I think,
Right.
60 tables.
Right.
So and yeah, there's a presentation so Coughlin speaks, but then there's still a lot of things to come. There's a couple of awards to give out. Then they bring Marone, DiFilippo, Wash, and Joe DiCamillo, the special teams coordinator, up for sort of a roundtable discussion with JP Shadrick. So, but Coughlin's left by this point. Like Coughlin speaks, and then Coughlin basically took off. So, it was interesting then to see the roundtable because like John DiFilippo is a great talker, great quote.
Right.
But he was very much the coach speak, not really revealing a whole lot. I was asked about Leonard Fournette, was asked about Nick Foles, and really didn't say anything beyond what he's already said, which is fine. But that's why it was so surprising when Todd Wash was as revealing in that setting as he was, because it wasn't the Jalen will travel with Tyreek was certainly the headline. And I do think it's a good thing. It seemed like last year they were hesitant to do it because they didn't know how AJ Boye would react to it, because they were very much trying to weigh, well, they're both equally great. It's not really that we have one great one and one good one. They're both great. I think they've got to move past that now. And I think AJ Boye, if he's frustrated or doesn't like it, I think we'll have to acquiesce to it, because Jalen Ramsey's he's just a better player. I mean, AJ Boye is a great player, but Jalen Ramsey might be one of the best corners to ever do this. The fact that he can cover Tyreek Hill and Julio Jones tells you what kind of a special player he is.
Correct.
And so I think it's good for the defense for them to move towards that of Jalen's going to travel. I mean, if there is clearly a top receiver that the opponent has, and in this case it's absolutely Tyreek Hill, then Jalen Ramsey needs to be on him every snap. So, but I think it would have been funny if Wash had said that and Coughlin was still in the room, because I would have loved to have seen his reaction when he said it. But yeah, Todd Wash was revealing today and certainly gave up a little bit of how they're going to play Kansas City.
And he didn't just talk about Jalen, he also talked about how they want to make sure they get Josh Allen on the field, which I think we all assumed that would happen, whether they wanted to specify it, out loud or not. But it's good news for this defense.
I'll say what I said after the last game. I think you've almost got to go to a 50 front. Bad radio saying 50 front, thinking people know what you're talking about. There's 4 3s and there's 3 4s. A 3-4 defense is considered a 50 front because there's 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. You're 3 linemen, and then either your outside linebackers can line up on the line of scrimmage. So if you see 3 guys with their hand on the ground and 2 guys standing up outside of those guys, that is generally a 3-4 or a 50 front. If it's a typical 4-3 with the Jaguars play, it's 4 linemen and then 3 linebackers, and then you may bring in a nickel. So the Steelers have always been a 3-4 team, a 50 front team. Buffalo all those years with Bryce popped a real good year. Green Bay with them they've been a 50 front team or a 3-4 team. The Ravens have been both. I'm talking about real good defense.
And it's a Dom Capers calling card.
And it's Dom Capers is a 50 front 3-4 guy, and he's here as a consultant or something. I just think you coach to your players, and if you're a 50 front or a 3-4 defense, that means essentially the change you're making is you're taking Leon Jacobs out of the game, even in base, and putting Josh Allen in. Well, news bulletin, that's a win.
Upgrade.
Okay. Secondly, now Yannick Ngakoue doesn't always have his hand on the ground. Now sometimes his hand's on the ground, sometimes it's up. Sometimes Josh Allen would be down, sometimes he'd be up. Sometimes 3 guys are down and both outside linebackers are up. And I think even though philosophically that's not what this team is, and oh, by the way, whether you're a 3-4 team or a 4-3 team, everybody's nickel is the same. Your 2 ends, your two speed rushers are on the ends, your 2 tackles are kind of tackle end combo guys like Calais and sort of Darius, who could be either. So your nickel, everybody's nickel is the same. when you talk about 3-4 versus 4-3, you're just talking about your base defense. I just think if you go to a 3-4, then Josh Allen's never not in the game. I wouldn't snap the ball without him in the game. I'm telling you, I wouldn't let the opposing team, and I'll say, I've beat the drum on this since that Miami game. I would not allow the opposing team to snap it without him in the game unless he's tired, nor would I do it without Ngakoue in the game. Well, the only way they're both playing is if you go to a 50 front. They're not, because you're not moving Calais to tackle. You're not changing his position. So the only way they all play together and play their more natural positions is if you go to a 3-4. And I've never been the guy that says, hey, they should change to this. Well, teams don't just do that. They don't practice all year long, have OTAs and mini camp and camp, and all of a sudden just, oh, we're just gonna change. It's too hard. But in this case, it's one of the few times I think I would recommend it.
And I think it's coincidental, the move and Dom Capers and all that, and the coincidence is, they never thought Josh Allen would fall to 7. Now, I guess they thought there was a small chance, because he came in for one of their 30 visits, but I think Josh Allen even remarked when we interviewed him that night, that the vibe in the building when he was here for that visit was, you're never gonna be there at 7, but we just wanted to bring you in and enter just in case. So he was pretty shocked, obviously, that he fell. But if Josh Allen gets selected by the Giants and TJ Hawkinson's a Jaguar, then they're still in the 4-3. They are making this adjustment wisely because a potential generational player fell to them at 7.
Well, if they do go to a 3-4 or make the adjustment correct. Second thought on that, you hit one part of it. A, they never thought he'd be there. That's A. B, even after they drafted him, I think it was Wash that said it. Hey, could he play some strong side linebacker? And he said, we brought him here to be a defensive end. There was not the plan. I think he's better in space and more athletic than even they thought. That's what I think. They knew he could rush the passer. I don't think they realized he's all the rest too. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I think they got surprised that, we're better with them both on the field all the time, not just in nickel. That's what I think happened.
And you mentioned Dom Capers. Do you think that helps the fact that he's there? Not that Todd Wash necessarily needed counseling to switch between the 4-3 and the 3-4, but just that he's seen so much stuff.
He's a huge asset.
Yeah.
A huge asset. And Dom Capers can really have a positive impact on this team this year.
Well, yeah, because if you say, hey, if we go to a 3-4 base, if they go trips left or stack the right side and go offset, how do we apply 3-4 to that? Dom Capers has done it because that's what he's coached his whole career. So he's a great sounding board. So yes, it helps. I don't necessarily think I think you coach your players regardless of who your consultant is, but I think that can only help. So again, I'm not smart as the football coaches. I don't know how I align. The reason I say I go to a 3-4 is because I am smart enough to know that Yannick Ngakoue and Josh Allen and Calais Campbell are 3 of your better players. And in fact, if you wanted to rank how good the defensive players are in order, if you just did a defensive player power poll, Jalen's 1. After that, those next 3 guys, Josh Allen, Calais, and Ngakoue in whatever order, might be 2, 3, and 4. No, Miles Jack's a really good player, and AJ Boye's a really good player, and Marcel Darius is the 3rd overall pick. So those guys might be in there too, but you get the point.
Yeah.
That group might be next. If you did a power poll of defensive players, those guys might be next.
We might have to wait to see how good Josh Allen is
You're
in
right.
the real game, but I get your point. His
and you're
potential
right.
is there, and from what we've seen in the preseason, it's there. And you did have one criticism of Todd Wash last year, and that's that he wouldn't really adjust his scheme. So this has to be good news as far as, from that perspective.
It's fantastic news. And whether it's by design or whether it's because of how the draft fell, regardless of how they got here, they're here. And it's gonna be a lot easier to fool the quarterback. It's gonna be a lot easier to just outman the opposing offense when you've got Ngakoue, Calais, Josh Allen on the field, and that Josh Allen isn't a 20-snap rotational player, which is sort of what we thought when they picked him for this year. To your point, Frank, this is a guy that if the defense is out there for 75 snaps, he needs to play 65 snaps.
As we sit here right now, the Noles and Boise State will play at 7 o'clock in the stadium on Saturday night. How big is the game for Florida State? We'll discuss it after this. Stay with us.
The Frangie Show, live from the law.
Would like Rick Catlett come on and give us any sort of
He would.
Well,
timeline
he's not
on?
on today?
Oh, is he on
Starts
there?
till next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he will.
I'd be interested in knowing like what
Yeah.
kind of
It's a really good idea.
discussions they're even having. Cause the thing about Rick is he's good, he could be like, well, we can't move it to one because there's X or X or, you know what I
Correct,
mean? Like
correct. He knows all that stuff.
Every,
He knows all that
all the
stuff.
web
I
things
agree.
that tie together.
I think his, calendar starts till next week, right?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't.
You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't.
Ray said that, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything.
But I think this is,
I was thinking that, and then I wondered, is he the best person, or is there someone else that handles more of the logistics now that?
but isn't he like the organizer of it? He'll have to know.
I would think so, I just always wonder.
I mean, he's gotta be, I would think he's gotta be the point man between Tallahassee and Boise.
Yeah, I would think so too. I just
And
wonder
he may
sometimes
say,
if
look,
he's,
I
like,
can't
stepping
really,
back.
he could say, look, I'm not really the point,
Right, no, but I thought about that, I just assumed he was coming in, so I was almost like, we'll just talk about it with Rick later, and then I didn't see it on the sheet, so I was like, no, we shouldn't say that.
I was like, I was kinda thinking, oh, shit, it's gonna be easy, we're gonna have Jimmy on. Cause I figured it would get.
Oh, pushed up?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're right. That's funny.
We do have a show, so he doesn't wanna do Jimmy on Friday?
No, I guess not, cause you know, Friday is like.
Oh, that's right.
Slam bam.
I
bam,
forgot.
bam.
I'm thinking 4 hours, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Think-
Not quite,
Yeah, I don't think that'll work.
cut that in half, and that's what you have.
I don't know if you noticed this, but I was playing U2,
Oh, you were, that's, I didn't.
I'll play another one.
What'd you play?
Desire last.
Oh, okay, cool, I'll mention it next time.
That might be a theme for today.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's-
Golfers, are you ready to grab your clubs and head to the course? Look no further than the World Golf Village's Slammer and Squire. For a limited time, play the Slammer and Squire for only $49 until September 2nd. You heard right, play on the Slammer and Squire golf course for only $49. Slammer and Squire has recently completed its summer maintenance. Don't miss out on this great offer. Book your tee times now at playwgv.com. That's playwgv.com.
Gentlemen, discover the new medical treatment that Viagra doesn't want you to know about. I'm Bradley, I'm with Synergenics Elite Health, and we offer GainsWave. It's a simple 20-minute in-office procedure. GainsWave is non-invasive. It restores support blood flow that causes it. Stop popping pills and
I put in the
Call 911.
pack of stuff there, the questions they want us to ask, or just suggestions for the Edward Waters, and then Steve gave that. Let's see, right there. Those are from Edward Waters, what they wanted us to ask about. I don't know, just say, tell us about the A&E class, or whatever you wanna do, but I don't know.
Yeah, they give me some direction, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The station with the best Jaguars coverage. 1010XL, 92.5 FM. Get inside the Gators with the Florida Gator Report with Lauren Brooks. Brought to you by Darley's Plumbing, where quality counts. Get your Gators on 1010XL.
11 o'clock tomorrow.
Share the road, share the responsibility. Mayor Lenny Curry here reminding you that when in doubt, wait it out. Make eye contact.
Yeah, let's work,
with
coat and tie pants.
drivers, always slow down.
I'll just do that every time. I think I would feel funny, like walking around.
COJ.net for more safety.
Everyone does, they don't do it anymore, they used to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I've never done it. I got to a party, I just, feel
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. And it'll be like Florida recap, Georgia Vandy, Auburn, Oregon.
We
Kind
start
of the
with-
things to prep on.
We'll start with FSU.
Oh, that's right, FSU.
Me and Norm having a game in Jacksonville, what it means to Jacksonville.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we got an update before the show
Right,
on
correct.
where the fuck that is.
Well, that's a good point.
We don't wanna do a Saturday morning show and you're talking about a game
It's
that's
not being played.
Yeah.
Good point. Really good point. But then we'll do that, we'll talk about the FSU bounce back here. We'll have video of that, we're gonna have video of that. For the quarterback.
Okay.
Hi guys, Prosser here for the
So Florida State, Florida, Miami recap, maybe a peek at, and then we'll do, it's like, you kind of look at the SEC games, hey, anything jump out at you, and then we do the same thing ACC, and she does the local hero,
Yeah.
and we do picks, and.
Jason's gonna send that to you tonight.
Okay.
So 11 o'clock. It is 11 o'clock.
11 tomorrow.
Vintage end of summer sale ends August 31st. St. Prosser City. Call 660-0556 or visit StayWithPlumbing.com.
They say time is money, and if you want to own Cadillac, we respect your time and strive to make your every visit a pleasure. Serving Jacksonville for over 114 years, Buffalo Cadillac owners come back again and again. Why? Because you are more than a customer, you are part of our family. Now get 0% financing for 72 months, plus $1,000 on most new
When that Mexican place, Lauren, near where Ben's office is,
Okay.
when you have this thing where it's just all this pork, and it's
Here we
with
go.
rice and beans, it was really good. It did not fill me up at all. You think it would, it's not all that different than Bono's.
Everything's different though. Rice doesn't do it.
So you got it here, FSU.
It's a kitchen and flooring design center Wednesday
Can we go?
on the Frangie Show on 1010XL,
Sorry.
92.5 FM.
Well done, Gibby. Little you too.
That's perfect. You're not slipping one by giving. Well, you didn't have to be a. That was tremendous. That makes me so happy. There's something really imbalanced in me that made me so happy.
Yeah.
It is something wrong. I can't put a finger on it.
I laughed when I saw
But it
it.
just made me very, I've been happy for 2 hours. But you didn't have to be. That was tremendous.
I think anytime someone is like that on Twitter, that means that they have some serious like insecurities. Like,
Well-
well, you didn't have to be mean. Like,
It
no,
was
just
a,
laugh,
it was
laugh
a, yeah,
at
it was a sarcastic.
Well,
Right.
there's tons of media members, myself included, that if you called them a blank hole, I'd kinda get it. Colin Hayes one's funny. That's just funny. That one makes me laugh.
As my mom always said, sarcasm is unbecoming of a lady. Well, you're not a lady, so you can be as sarcastic as you want. Welcome back to the Frangie Tone Kitchen and Flooring Design Center Wednesday. If you need new
I can't
floors,
believe you didn't have to be in there.
new bathrooms, new kitchen, or like Frank, new closets, head to the Kitchen Flooring Design Center on Southside Boulevard across the street from Tinseltown or floorsandkitchen.com. I cannot wait until my new floors get put in. All right, FSU Boise State, let's assume that the game kicks off Saturday night here at TIAA Bank Field. Obviously, all openers, there's pressure on the head coach, but how important is this game against Boise State for Florida State and Willie Taggart, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, and I've probably been guilty of giving a pat answer to that question all week or 4 weeks. Yeah, it's really important. Hayes, you and I both said, look out if they don't get there. But then I got to thinking about it. Florida State's not gonna win the national championship. News bulletin. They're not winning the national, they're not good enough to win the national title. Sorry, no fans, you wanna get mad at me, get mad at me. If you think I'm being a homer, I don't think Florida's gonna win it either, okay? So just so you know. I don't think FSU's having a season for the ages. What I do think they have to do is be competitive in their league. What they can't do is go 6-6 and 3-5 in the league. That's what you can't do. That no matter what, you can't do that. So for me, this is a critically important game. Don't miss, critically important. You have to send the message that you've righted the ship from last year, and winning this game somehow, some way will do that. But I would rather lose this game and not lose key players than somehow survive a 34-33 win, but Blackman and Cam Akers get hurt, and then you're in trouble. What matters this year for the Seminoles is you gotta right the ship, and you gotta right the ship within the league. So it's a vitally important game. If Florida had lost to Miami, all that momentum was gone. Some of it's gone anyway, in the minds of some, because they came so close to not winning the game. But they won the game. I think FSU, if they look well coached and play well, and they don't have 7,000 penalties, you still need to win the game. But if you don't win the game, I don't think the sky comes crashing down. FSU needs to walk off that field, preferably with a win, but to look like they're not a disaster. They can't play like Florida played and lose, and because again, Dan Mullen had built up some equity, that you can have a bad game or two. Taggart has no equity. If they play badly, everybody is gonna say same old, same old. So, I'm not saying there's a moral victory, there's no moral victories for FSU in this game. This isn't Miami playing the 8th ranked team in the country. This is a team playing a team against whom you are favored. But the most important thing is it can't look like a disaster again. That I think is critical here.
Yeah, I think he's got to win it. I think you win it, and if you win it ugly, so be it. But I think Willie Taggart's got to have the game, because I think the number one thing that will pop into everybody's mind around the nation that follows college football when they think of Florida State, if they lose to Boise State, is going to be hot seat. Willie Taggart's going to go right to the top of that list, and whether that's in reality or not, that will be the perception, I think, around the nation. If Florida State loses to Boise, it just makes it difficult, because now no one's talking about your program. I don't know that at Virginia September 14th is enough. It would be a nice win, but I don't know that that's enough of a win to get people to forget about a neutral site loss to Boise State that's really a home game. Then it's Louisville, then it's NC State. Now you're going to Clemson October 12th. Wouldn't expect that to go well. So I think if they lose to Boise State, I think it's really hard to see Florida State generating a whole lot of positive buzz this year. Now that doesn't mean that he could still have a great recruiting class, and you know, he could really find a core group of players that believe in what he's doing, and the culture could improve, and all that stuff. But in terms of just perception around the nation, I think they have to beat Boise State. I think if they beat Boise State, there's going to be a lot of buzz about FSU might really be the surprise team to watch, even if it's 27-24. But I think if they lose to Boise State, I think pretty much the college football world is going to turn their back on Willie Taggart and the Noles, and unless they do something miraculous, like win at Clemson October 12th, I don't think anybody's going to pay attention to him all year, and that's tough when you're trying to recruit against the teams that he's trying to recruit against that are getting great exposure week in and week out.
Well, and unfortunately for Florida State, Boise State is a tricky opponent in that nationally people are not going to respect a loss to them. Miami gets more credit just because of what Miami once was, but Miami's last 10 years of football, they've had 2 seasons where they won at least 9 games. That's it. Boise State, meanwhile, has won at least 9 games 8 of the last 9 years. Granted, it's a different conference, but still, people are not going to respect a loss to Boise State the way that if Florida had lost to Miami, it would have felt. So I think it's a game that, for Willie Taggart, I think, Frank, no matter how sloppy the game it is, you have to win that game. You can fix whatever it is, like Florida thinks right now. You can fix whatever it is, but you have to win the game.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's gonna feel awful for the Noles if they lose this game. But I think they have to be better this season. I think what we're all saying, what you guys are both saying, I get it, is if they lose this game, not only does it feel awful this game, but that's gonna be an indicator that they're not much better, right? I think that.
When it shapes the narrative nationally, so negatively.
Yeah, right, and then you really do have to play with a chip on your shoulder, because right now, FSU's trying to get people to buy, forget about last year. We learned our lesson. We completely rebuilt our coaching staff. We have a new quarterback who probably should have been playing last year. Part of rebuilding our coaching staff is Greg Fry is out, who wasn't a very good line coach, and Randy Clemenson, who's a very good line coach, and Kendall Briles is in calling plays, who's better than Walt Bell, and blah, 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 blah. We're better at all these spots. And you have to understand, again, I'll go back to what I said yesterday, of all the things he said, even the uniform thing is important. He said, you know what, we wore black uniforms, and this uniform, and goofy looking this. We're wearing garnet shirts and gold, we're wearing garnet shirts and gold pants at home, and we're in white on the road, and that's what we're doing. And there's no gimmicky stuff. We're getting back to being Florida State. Our goal is to get back, and by the way, to me, Florida State's white and gold on the road, not white and white, but whatever. The point is, we're getting away from the gimmicks. We're getting away from, we're back to Florida State. Well, and they've spent 8 months trying to create that narrative, right? Trying to create hey, don't judge us on last year. We figured out we messed that up. Judge us on what this year is going to be. And if you lose the game, nobody's buying. But so I get that. But I think big picture is, they've gotta figure it out. They're not firing him next week. They may not fire him no matter what happens this year. So, I don't know that if you lose a barn burner and play well in this game, that the world ends. I guess, does that make sense? I don't know if the world ends if you lose the game. But it's harder than ever to change the narrative or to continue to send your message of a changed narrative if you don't win the game.
And I think the other thing too, that would be particularly challenging if Florida State loses to Boise State, is right now, I mean, their recruiting class is I think just inside the top 10 when you look at the 24/7 sports composite. I think they're 9th. So having a very good start to the year. But I think what happens if you lose to Boise State is, again, that hot seat narrative becomes, when Florida State will be brought up on national TV and in whatever media outlet, the hot seat conversation is gonna be, if it doesn't start it, it's gonna be right there with Willie Taggart. And I think it opens Florida State up to such negative recruiting by the other schools that they recruit heavily against, that I think it just makes it difficult, because I think it's gonna be hard to get that signature win back, because I just don't think they have a chance of winning at Clemson. I say that, I mean, they have a puncher's chance, but they're gonna be a substantial underdog. So to me, that's sort of the challenge, is he's shown the ability to at least recruit fairly well considering the circumstances, and this class so far really looks good considering the circumstances. But how much of this class is buying into this year will be different? And if Boise State beats you in Jacksonville, how many of those kids and the other kids that you're, coveting, how do they look at that and say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't go there because this guy may not be my coach all three years before I'm in the draft?
Here's another thing. Next week, you got the gimme against Louisiana Monroe, right? So you're gonna win next week. The following week, 2 weeks from Saturday, you play a night game at Virginia, a team that's supposed to have their best team in years. This is supposed to be the best University of Virginia team. I mean, they're picked by many to win the Coastal. Now, everybody wins the Coastal, so, but they say, and again, I'm not sure I'm gonna buy that, but nonetheless, they say this is the best Virginia team in many, many, many years. Well, if you lose to Boise State, do you have the confidence then to go win in Charlottesville? Similarly, I've always said this, in college football really plays out. A team that's confident has a better chance to win, not overconfident, but a team that's confident has a better chance to win the game because they kind of think they're going to. And a team that's not as confident has less of a chance to win the game because they're not sure they're going to. I think it played out in Florida, Miami. I don't think Miami could believe they were going to win that game because Florida's ranked 8th and Miami wasn't. And even when, like Joe Zagacki said yesterday, and I agree with him, they had 4 or 5 chances to win the game and they quit trying. They couldn't do it any of those times. Part of winning the game is believing you can make that one more play. Well, I'm still not sure Virginia is completely confident they can make one more play against FSU. But if FSU comes in there with a loss to Boise, who's kind of like them, right? Then I think they are confident. That's how important. So, winning or losing this game could greatly affect that game, right?
Yeah, it certainly could. The other thing that I think doesn't help Florida State, and y'all can tell me I'm crazy, but this hurricane. Instead of Florida State being totally focused on beating Boise State and not taking Boise State for granted because they really had a much better record than FSU did last season. But now I feel like there's a distraction with the hurricane, and so that kind of takes your mind off the task at hand.
Yeah, it could affect both teams.
I don't think you're crazy at all.
Yeah,
I think
I think it affects FSU worse than it affects Boise
massive
State.
problem for Florida State. I mean, even if we're just coming down to, even fans that have already purchased their tickets, if they play the game Saturday night and they are expecting 36 hours later for this hurricane that they believe could be a Category 3 to make landfall in Central Florida, Central to North Florida, no one's gonna go to the game. I mean, you're not gonna have a home field advantage.
And that's where all FSU families live,
right, and
not Boise State families.
I think the main point that I think that you're hitting on is this roster is full of players that these are their hometowns that might be decimated by this storm.
You better believe it.
Boise State doesn't really have any of that.
Great point.
So Boise State's just gonna get on a plane, fly in, play a football game, fly out. For Florida State, it really creates a massive distraction.
We'll take a break. We'll keep it on college football though. Not this week, but a week from Saturday, the Edward Waters football team begins its season. Greg Ruffin begins his second year as the coach of Edward Waters. We'll talk to him about the upcoming season. Edward Waters football up next on 1010 XL and 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the law.
Offices of Brett Hastings Studio.
I think he's coming halfway in the second, is that? 4:05?
When's he coming on?
4:05. 4:05.
By
Is it
phone, right?
Yeah, by phone.
Yeah,
Oh, so
so
not
we'll have
4
him-
o'clock.
No, not 4 o'clock. I
So
did
we'll
it that way so we
yeah,
could have
5
like,
minutes.
whatever you wanna talk about, and then we'll transition. All right, now let's bring in, 4 or 5. I told Chad I was doing it that way.
That's fine.
Because, that way it's like also like a 5-minute thing, or 3, or however you want.
No, I'm with you. Good call.
Yeah.
Greg Ruffin. They don't play this week, though. They don't play till the following week.
Right, yeah, the schedule's there.
Yeah, I got it.
Watching Flaherty against Yelich. See what Yelich did last night? So he's in the body issue, right?
Oh, I
And this
saw
lady comes at him on Twitter and is like, I can't believe you would do this. It's such a bad example for young kids.
Hey,
Good to see you again.
See you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Frank,
Yes,
see you.
sir.
Hey, Greg,
I didn't know y'all
good
were
to see
coming
you.
in, man.
Yep, yep,
Coach, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Thanks for stopping by. How you doing, man?
I'm
You all right?
hanging in there, man. I'm trying to make the Frank Franger, man, you know. I'm working hard to get it.
Good,
year two. Got you a couple.
That's
right, year two.
Got you a couple goodies.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. We'll get you set up over here.
We got posters?
You kidding me?
It's not a
Life's
Wednesday.
good when you get
football
posters,
season.
all right?
Posters.
Real quick, I'll be right back. All right.
When did you guys get into camp? When did it start up?
We've been in about 3 weeks, well, about 4 weeks now, the school started last week.
Okay.
So
How's everything been going?
it's going,
Yeah,
yeah, you know how it goes, year 2 of the madness,
yeah.
so,
Easier in year 2?
not really.
Not really.
You don't really, it's the third year.
Yeah,
If you get to the third year, that's when you start to see it,
yeah.
especially, you know, we took, okay, right back. When you get to year 3, everything's pretty, and with us moving up and some of the things we're doing, you know, so now I got a couple of cats there. You know, that probably need to swap out, you know. And then when you move up, you gotta do move up type decisions, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. I know last year when I was sitting here, I had taken over an 0-10 program.
Yep.
We went 4-7 last year. We lost 2 games on the last play of the game.
Oh,
We lost to Cows at 3rd and 5. We're up by 3. A minute left in the game. We give up a 66-yard run.
oh.
You know, first game of the season last year. We were going into overtime. He throws to the wrong side. I designed the play to go to the right. Kid popped wide open. He threw it back to the side. He threw the touchdown. It ain't there. It's over here. That's why I went trips right. Trips right. You know. So we were close. We lost 2 games. Like we were right at 6-5. So, you know, so we'll see.
This product contains nicotine.
How y'all guys been doing?
Coach, we are good. We are good. I'm glad you came in. I appreciate you coming in here now.
Oh, yeah.
So what's different? Well, I guess I'll ask you this on the air, but what's different year 2? A lot of things?
Stability.
They know you, you know them, the whole bit, right? That's kinda how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you know, it's, you know, they know what the expectations are.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, last year was kind of like, you know, you didn't really have any team leadership because I had almost all, we played 59 true freshmen last year.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Just like now, what'd you tell me the roster breakup was right now?
31 freshmen, 1 redshirt freshman, 24 sophomores, 15 juniors, and 11 seniors.
Oh, wow.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are those 11 seniors tilted towards one side of the ball or the other, or is it pretty evenly distributed?
Pretty even. And like, you know, it's like, who plays as a senior? Joyce?
Joyce, Beeks. Jeremiah Johnson.
Well done.
Nah.
Okay.
It ain't but, out of the 11
Yeah,
seniors,
yeah,
it ain't but like 3 of them
yeah.
that's playing.
Right.
So we're still young. You know, we got some transfers that can play, you know, that's the biggest thing. We brought in about 16 17 transfers.
What's, quarterback, do you have your guy back, or is it a battle?
He's back.
He's back.
He made all conference last year.
Okay, and he's a sophomore?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
The kid from Robert E. Lee.
Derek Jones.
Jerry Jones and
Noodle.
Noodle. They call him Noodle. But, as long as he don't get hurt, we gotta fight the chance. If he get down, he's tapped.
You going to the Knowles game?
I'm gonna try. We got an early morning, you know, the Sharks won the championship, so I've gotta go do that celebration thing over there at the Prime Osborne.
Which is
And
exciting.
some other stuff I've gotta do, so I'm gonna definitely try. Definitely try.
Our guys don't very often, man.
No, they don't. No,
Well, they may
don't.
not.
Yeah, I went to Tallahassee last year for the opener against Virginia Tech. So.
I was there too.
Were you there, Brad?
Yeah, we were just listening on the radio and they was talking about we're getting that for the state. We're not wearing that black shit. You know, we had black uniforms. We're not getting all cute and shit. You know, we're just, you know.
That's what he said,
And,
too.
you know, when they were saying it on the radio, I was laughing because I told them last year, I said, man, you know, kind of like the running joke. We were leaving, we was like, man, he said, Florida State got black uniforms, black helmets. I said, blackout on Thursday night. I said, black head coach. I said, he got a black fucking eye. You know, we were chilling over there. Cause I know his director of football operations. He's a buddy of mine. He went to Western Kentucky with frat brothers. So he was like, man, he just got there this year.
Okay.
He was coaching in the Tascasita outside of Houston. So he brought him in this year. And I was like, man, you know, it was like everything was, I mean, it was like one of the hypest games I had ever been to. But they were so terrible up front. I mean, that was the worst offensive line I'd ever seen.
Did you show your offensive line that game and say be better than this?
No, because I had just got the Edward Waters. And when I looked at the film of the guys I had, they were going down, sit, right. So I couldn't talk, you know. Oh, God.
Hey, we're glad you're with us with Hayes Carline, Lauren Brooks, and Andrew Gibson. I'm Frank Frangie. Let's talk a little college football. Let's talk college football. Edward Waters style. It's a pleasure to welcome Greg Ruffin, the second-year coach, into the studio with us. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you guys doing?
Man, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming by. I got a lot to talk about. You don't start Saturday. You start a week from Saturday. So I'm going to get to some of the games and a very cool homecoming event you've got for the first time. But first things first, I ask you this off air. What's different in year two when you've been with them for the whole year now? It's got to be different, right?
Well, I think there's familiarity, you know, within the coaches and the kids, and I think, you know, we know what our expectations are and how we can go about fulfilling those expectations as a program. I think, you know, when you come in and you got, you know, so many youth in the program that we had last year, as evidenced by us playing close to 59 true freshmen.
Wow.
You know, I think it's a thing now where there's some guys that's been in the program, and now with the new guys coming into the program, they can look at those guys and say, hey, around here we do things like this. And we can start to set that expectations, and it'll permeate throughout the program because the kids are starting to convey that message to other guys in the program.
59 freshmen. 59.
That's incredible. And you've got some freshmen this year in this class that you feel like are going to contribute, correct?
Oh yeah, no doubt. We probably got about another out of 24, 25. We probably got another 14 true freshmen to go along with another probably about 17, 18 transfers. Because we had to get some older guys, you know, in terms of being able to set the classes. You don't want to get caught with so many freshmen that when you get in any one given year, everybody exits the program at the same time. So we brought transfers in to level out the classes a little bit, but it also gave us some experienced football players to go along with those guys that gained that year of experience last year.
Coach, tell us about your quarterback, obviously from here, Derek Jones, from Lee High School.
Derek Noodle Jones, you know, he was a heck of a player here at Lee. You know, he was a 7A player of the year his junior year. He did an outstanding job for us last year in terms of, you know, as young as we were up front, you know, he has an innate ability to be able to scramble and move all over the place. So he's kind of a hard hard guy to kind of corral when things break down a little bit. He has the ability to make something out of nothing. Evidence, like I said, he made second team all conference, and you know, he kind of wheeled us to a couple of wins last year. You know, but I think, you know, the backup is coming back as well, Rashard Branch. So, you know, you got two guys that's been in the program. They all played last year. So, you know, we tried bringing in a transfer quarterback, but I tell you one thing: when you bring guys in, the kids that are in the program, they always got one thing up on those guys. They know the system. You know, if the talent is equal, they still got the leg up because, you know, they know what you want and they know what the expectations are. And he, of course, he's not gotten outplayed, and so he'll be sitting in that chair next week when we take on Morehouse.
Greg Ruffin is here, the football coach at Edward Waters. You know, college football is an interesting thing. In the NFL, the coach comes in and he coaches the team, and the GM gets the players, and the marketing does this. College football, all college football, I don't care if you're Alabama or anybody else, the coach is the CEO. That is that's your program. But when you get there, you got to build stuff, don't you?
That's right.
You got a new stadium.
Right.
You had to build a new culture.
Right.
Was that hard? What did you inherit? And how hard was that rebuilding everything?
Well, let me say this. You know, it was one of those situations whereas everything was done over. It was a complete do-over.
Okay.
You know what I mean? In my career, I've been doing this 24 years. I've been a part of 3 startup football programs, and I would equate this to this same thing.
I get
you know
it.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was basically, hey, throw the grenade in there, close the door, blow it up, and,
Yeah.
and let's take it. I mean, from new uniforms, new shoulder pads, everything was done over. I mean, it was a chance to just right the ship and say, if we're ever gonna do this the right way, the time is now.
Yeah, so it's a startup. I mean, and you answered it the way I thought you would. This is kind of, and Edward Waters played a lot of football, but this is a startup.
Exactly.
It really is. I mean, it's interesting stuff.
What do you like about your defense this year?
Well, I think, you know, we're not as big. I mean, we're big. Let me say this: we're big and we're long. We shifted over from a 40 front to an odd front because of the surplus of linebackers that we had. We really were more deep at the linebacker position than we were at the defensive tackle position. So we got a true nose, big old kid, about 340 pounds out of Flagler Palm Coast, Willis Glover. He's a heck of a football player, you know. He'll be manning the nose, and then now we're able to get those other guys. And then, I mean, you know how it is in the league. Some of the best defenses in the league, they're out front defenses. You know, guys are getting in there 3-4, and they're bringing pressure from different angles, and it's kind of.
You got to have that two gapper though, don't you?
Exactly.
You got to have that guy.
Can't play it without a two gapper. You cannot do it, and we got that. I can't tell you the guy behind him is great at it yet.
Right.
You know, but
right.
That's why they call us coach. You know, we're gonna continue to coach him up, and but I think we'll be better in the secondary too. I think last year, towards the end of the year, we were very porous in the secondary. You know, we gave up a lot of easy stuff. I mean, and I think we're in a position to make plays. We just didn't finish. You know, so. I think that took care of the weaknesses. I think defensive end wise, we're very talented. We got about 6 transfer defensive ends that we're very, very high on. So, and being older, stronger, and having the ability to know I got outside containment, that kind of helps too. You know what I mean? So we're excited about those guys as well. So I think we'll be better. We'll be better. I think, you know, down the stretch that kind of killed us. We weren't very good, you know, on the edge, and you got to be good on the edge, especially with these spread offenses with the jet sweeps and all that kind of stuff in the zone read. You know, we just went, you know, we caught a period where we went blank. But I think, you know, we're gonna be a little bit better at this year.
First of all, I would love to have the same diet as the 340-pound nose guard has in a day and all the calories that he gets to eat. But second, you took over a program that started, or they were 0-10 before you started.
Right.
Last year you won 4 games. How many games would you like to win this season?
I mean, we won't win the season. I mean, you know, we were 6 points from having to win the season last year. We almost pulled it off. I mean, you know, the first game of the season, when we lose, you know, 15-13, we gave up 2 trick plays, and that was really the difference in the football game. We outplayed them the whole game, and then we went on a 3-game road swing, a 4-game, won 3 in a row on the road, and get down to Kaiser. You know, of course, they were started a program last year. They did a great job down there in terms of how they put that program together. They redshirted about 50 guys, and then kind of added to it, and I mean, but we're up. I mean, we're up with a minute left in the game, you know, and we give up a 66-yard run on 3rd and 5. You know, it was just luck of the draw, you know. So we were almost there, you know. We were close, you know, but it ain't horseshoes, so we can't count it. you know.
Coaches can't get ahead, you're not allowed to, you gotta worry about next week's game.
That's right.
But this homecoming's gonna be kinda cool, your AME Classic, right?
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, you know, of course, us being founded in 1866 by the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and of course, Allen University. It's an older institution. It's not as old as us, but they're an older institution that's right there in Columbia, South Carolina, and they just brought football back last year. Now they brought it back in 2002, had it for about 3-4 years and dropped it.
Okay.
And then they brought it back again last year. So, you know, they're in year 2 of it, and, you know, good friend of mine's head football coach over there. And, you know, I think that, you know, with us being able to get something going in terms of two institutions of historical significance, you know, it'd be kind of fun, you know.
It's cool.
Yeah.
How much live tackling do you like to do? We were watching, you know, the Florida-Miami game Saturday night, tons of missed tackles in that game. What's the balance you have to strike as a coach between getting guys physically ready to live tackle in a game, but not risking injury and beating them down too much?
Well, I can tell you this. I've been this way for a long time. You know, a lot of coaches sit back and they're trying to make it to Saturday. And that gets a lot of coaches fired because they're not very good on Saturday. Like you said, they can't tackle, the kids don't wrap up, you know, things of that nature. No, we tackle at Edward Waters. I mean, we got full pads on, we tackle. We got half pads on. Somebody might get blew up out there. I mean, I'm just saying, how can I ask a kid to be tough and I don't put him in tough situations? And it's gotten that way in the NFL now. You're starting to see the same thing because they don't even tackle when the season starts with all the new rules, with the, you know, with the Players Association and the collective bargaining agreement and all of that. So you take, I'm paying somebody so many millions of dollars to be a professional in something, but we're not practicing being professionals, you know, Saturday, you know, throughout the week. But my expectations are very high on Sunday. It's killing the game. I mean, I'm being honest with you, it's killing the game. And some coaches, I know when I got to Bethune-Cookman, they had lost 16 kids in 2016. They won a championship in 15. I got there, and after the 16 season, they had lost 16 kids to surgery. And I can remember I was asking coach, I was like, Coach, man, you don't tackle a lot. He said, no, Coach, you know, we had 16 kids go down. Now that's his theory, you know what I mean? Because it put him in a situation where his mindset was, I got to get him to Saturday because of what transpired the year before. But you can get hurt the first play of the game.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So.
Interesting. Good stuff.
For people who have never been to an Edward Waters game, why should they go?
Well, I mean, you know, you're going to see a good disciplined brand of football. I mean, we're going to get after it, and, you know, it's a growing brand. You know, are we there yet? Nah, we're not there yet. But I tell you what, you know, we sure ain't the program that I inherited either. You know what I mean? So the kids are starting to understand that, you know, you got an E, you got a W, and you got a C on your chest. You know, I told the kids last night, I said, you know, when you're playing college football, it should mean more to you than the staff. You know, I told them, I said, look, I'm a graduate of Jackson State University. I'm a graduate of Lane College. I said, now, and if a day comes and I'm asked to leave or I leave on my own, I said, I'll simply take everything with Edward Waters on it and I put it in a pile and I cherish my time here. I said, but when you leave here, I mean, when you leave this world, it's gonna go down in your obituary. It's gonna say, hey, he matriculated at Edward Waters College. So as much as it means to me as a coach, it should just mean just a little bit more to you, because this is where you're getting your sheepskin from.
Greg Rothenby, coach at Edward Waters. Home game next week against Morehouse, then 4 games on the road.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I think 4 in a row on the road. Did you do that schedule?
I had nothing to do with it.
I'm just gonna say, this is 4 games in a row, and then of course that Allen game comes back. Hey, thanks for coming by. Good luck. Can you keep Josh in town so he doesn't make those trips to Tallahassee?
We'll do.
Just keep him here, okay? So he
Will
doesn't
do.
sleep, don't try to slip to Tallahassee.
Hopefully he's my good luck to him.
He needs to be. Hey,
See,
Greg.
He didn't sit in this room last year when I was here. It was
He didn't?
It was Henry.
Well, that's what
See,
happened.
Josh is here.
That's
now.
what happened,
So
man.
that might be good enough for 2 more wins. Huh?
Greg, thanks for coming by. The best of
Thanks.
luck. Look forward to watching you play this year.
All right, thanks guys for having me.
Back in a moment on 1010 XL and 92.5 FM.
Now, the Lab Rat.
Howdy.
Good job.
Yes, you're doing it, you got a color and everything, right?
We'll find a color.
So all I need is an engineer there. First Coast next week.
Yes, sir.
Coach, nice to meet you, Andrew.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming in.
All right, thanks,
Good to
buddy.
see you, excuse me.
We're gonna do the last one, and we'll have to figure out, I'm waiting on a couple of game starts.
That's the game, then, the last one.
Is that against?
Savannah State, yeah,
Okay.
we're doing that
See,
one.
y'all didn't know I ain't gonna pick, you know, I was a finalist for that job last year.
Savannah State?
It was,
Yeah, I pulled out of it.
so I'm gonna try to get the
It was taking too
homecoming
long,
game.
and then my
Okay.
president
All right.
was kinda like
Sounds good,
super
sounds good.
pissed off
Anything
about
else
it.
yourself, let me know.
No, I just
So,
need,
He got the right guy, you don't wanna lose the right guy.
so I'll have somebody out there with an engineer First Coast to get you set up on our stuff, so you can do it, but yeah.
And,
All right, man.
President, somebody sent that to the president, he was like, he called me like,
He
you
wasn't-
might,
he wasn't
when he
playing.
called me, he was like, you might wanna get the job. I'm like, so what are you saying, if I don't get the job, I don't have a job here, you know, like they called me, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, when people put you on the front page of the paper, you might wanna get the job. Like that.
Can I get a picture of you guys real quick? before
That's
you
really,
go?
that's really fun.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it, man?
Well, you gotta go beat that ass, is what you gotta do. Okay. That's the next step.
Right.
Do you wanna take it with this in the background?
That's fine, yeah, we can do that. That'll work.
Here we go, right in the middle there, Coach, there we go. How's that?
Alright, 1, 2, 3. One more time, 1, 2, 3. Alright, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Nice seeing you. Thank you for coming in.
Nice seeing you again.
Josh, good seeing you, brother.
Good to see you as well.
All right,
Best of luck to you.
All right, man, we'll talk. j.c.jackson@ewc.edu. All right, cool. If not, you should have my cell, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. Yeah, we'll talk. Sounds good. All right, good to see you. Good to see you again. Take care. All right, we'll talk soon. All righty.
That'd be awesome.
It's great seeing you.
All
Take
right,
care.
buddy.
All right, good to see you.
We'll see you, man.
All right, take care. All right.
Take it.
All right.
School. Them games off for nothing, now you get the damn,
So tomorrow
let me
we
get
go-
the damn hat.
Freaking breaking your office, put that thing right over your desk.
I'm gonna get a hat.
Come on. I'm putting that poster up right above his desk.
I got.
I like it.
He was good, he was good, he was good, that guy.
And remember, don't wait till you're
He did your service.
$50,000 for a table. Oh, yeah. Nobody, he can give, come back up and say we're not taking care of it.
You got it.
I need a hat.
We'll bring you a hat. Hat guy didn't get a hat. Yeah, right.
We'll get a hat, a t-shirt.
Poster.
I got a t-shirt from like 8 years ago.
EWC?
Uh-huh, I'll wear it.
Will you really?
Yeah, it's a Under Armour, it's a nice one, EWC football. It's got the lion or the tiger, whatever the heck they were on there, tiger. It's nice.
I fired Josh when I was at UNF, remember? Cause Lee Moon didn't like him, so maybe that's why you're not getting all of this stuff.
He was so much better than the next guy.
Xander.
He's so much better.
Oh, no, all you gotta do is send them an email, that's why.
Josh?
Henry.
I don't know.
No, they're just, it's horrible. Lucky we got this side.
We got it.
I know.
And two posters.
It took a long time.
And two posters, bro.
Yeah, they had 2 posters.
Going home?
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, all right?
No,
Still shitty?
I am, I'm still back, something.
He got food poisoning on Saturday. Right
Oh,
before-
what'd
right-
you eat?
right
I'm
before the Bulls
thinking,
game.
I'm
Oh.
thinking that's what it was. I ate at European Street Cafe. I just had tuna salad with some pita and lettuce. And by the end of the Bartram game, I was dead.
They in San Marco.
Yeah.
They came straight to the Bulls.
Yeah.
It was also 7,000 degrees.
I know, but maybe I touched something, but just maybe it's a virus. But man, I've had, every time I eat now,
So shitty.
yeah, I feel bad.
Oh,
I feel
that's not
bad.
good.
I went home, I went to the doctor yesterday.
Nothing's worse than
Can't
that,
touch
but
it.
nothing's worse than
Did you see, Chris Conley asked, what's the best pizza place in Jacksonville?
Oh, yeah.
Like the last 30 minutes ago, he tweeted that out.
What did you tell him?
I haven't said anything yet. Who?
I'm sure people will say Biggie's.
I've seen like some people say Brucci's before.
Yeah. Biggie's is only out at the beach. It's delicious.
I like Renna's, but I haven't eaten
Renna's
pizza.
is good. Al's is good.
We need the pizza guy. I have not been able to find one.
But you know what he said though?
We don't have a piece down the shoulder, I can't say.
Yeah.
He put in parentheses, not melon mushroom.
Yeah,
He must
yeah.
not like it, I don't know.
We haven't, he lives at the beach, right? Did you ever say that?
I don't know.
Chris Conley, I know he surfs.
I think he
I think he
lives
lives
there.
at the beach actually too, cause his wife works out with my hairdresser.
Alright, about 30 seconds here.
Alright, Griffin, see ya.
Have a good day.
I hope you feel better.
I haven't eaten
Maybe you
pizza
got a
in probably
parasite.
since
Thank
February.
you. Maybe. Tapeworm. Stomach cancer, Lauren. You just throw that up.
That's really awesome.
Air Engineer Service Experts gets you a new air conditioner from just $99.50 a month. There's no money down, never a charge for repairs, and 2 months are free. Call Air Engineer Service Experts at 866-EXPERTS or visit airengineers.com. See website for license today.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Avatar and the leading excellent attorneys. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000.
It's a kitchen and flooring design center Wednesday on the Frangie Show on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Thanks to Greg Ruffin for coming in. The Edward Waters football coach, they start a week from Saturday. 1 home game and then 4 straight on the road, Fred Waters. Frangie Carline, Lauren Brooks, and Andrew Gibson with you as we continue along here. Brooks, could you make a field goal?
I
You ever tried?
have tried and I was not good at it. That's the
But you're a
story
soccer
where-
player.
Yeah, but because I was accustomed to chest over the ball, that way you don't, just let the ball fly too high in the air, right?
I don't know enough about soccer.
Keep,
to know
you
that. I
want the
believe
ball
you.
to stay lower than the goalpost, right? When you're shooting on goal, a lot of times you watch
Ah.
soccer and you see those balls fly over the goal, right?
Right.
It goes way up into the stands. To be able, or to make sure you don't do that, you put your chest over the ball. I was always chest over the ball person because that's how you taught in soccer. Long story short, I told you the story where I lined up, it was like a Jaguars women's football 101
Yeah.
back when Mike Malarkey was the head coach. And I went to try the field goal and it went straight and it hit the guy who was underneath the field goal's private parts.
Oh,
And
you
he
got him
wouldn't
in
let me
across.
try again.
So,
Yeah.
why can Carly Lloyd do it? You can't. Both soccer players.
Well, I didn't.
She made one from 55 yards. Just
Yeah,
said.
that's very impressive. First of all, she's way better than me. Let's
Okay.
get that out,
Well,
okay.
you don't know. Nobody would have known she was better at football than you. American football.
Well, I think she has a better leg in general than I ever did. But also, it probably just takes a little bit of coaching to be able to use her strength, and then she knew to leave chest back, and then that lifts the ball.
Right now, if we went out right now to like a football field, could you make a field goal from any distance?
From any distance?
I mean, could you make
Yeah.
a 30-yard field goal?
I don't know about 30 yards.
Well, 20
Chip
yards.
shot? Yeah,
20
I could
yards?
probably do that.
Okay, ball's on the 3, 4th and goal.
I'll just run it in.
Okay. We snap it, it'd be a 20-yard field goal. Could you make it? I mean, could you make a 20-yard? You're
I
a
have-
soccer player.
I
You
have
should be able to
enough
make a 20-yard
leg,
field
I think,
goal.
to make it. Again, though, I'm just used to line driving the ball. You're asking me to completely change the trajectory of something I've ever done.
Well, yeah, I'm asking you to make it. I mean, I'm not
I
asking you to
get
take
it,
it
but
low.
I'm saying why it doesn't come naturally for me. But obviously, soccer players can transition. Josh Lambo never played football. He played soccer. He was a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But goalkeepers have a different motion. They are used to getting the ball super high in the air because they want it to go over the defense, sometimes over the midfielders, and get it all the way to the offense.
Carline, could you make a field goal?
No.
I don't think I could.
I don't
either.
think I probably could.
I don't think I could make a field goal. I could punt, but
could
I don't think I could make a field goal.
maybe throw it over.
Yeah, I probably could do that, but I don't think I could make, I mean, I don't think I could elevate and make a field goal. I don't. I mean, I was thinking about that. It's not easy.
I bet you I haven't tried since I was 14. And
It
that
would
was
be fun
just
to
for
go out and
laughs.
try.
Yeah, I mean, it would be.
When we were kids, we used to do it all the time, but you tee that thing up a little bit, so I don't think I could, I don't think.
Well, like in the playground, you never had the
Right.
actual goal post.
Right.
Like I remember doing it at football practice, like here and there, like, before practice would start.
Sure,
or
just
something
for
like
fun.
that. And, but yeah, I mean, that's almost 30 years ago.
But I thought, since you're a soccer player, I thought you could do it. I'm very disappointed you could knock one through for about 40 yards.
I'm sorry. I don't want to lie.
So all soccer players
Jackson
can't do
Lakers.
that? That's not, so Carly Lloyd's better than other soccer players?
Yes. Is that a surprise?
Is she better than other normal soccer players?
Yeah, but the people who are really good ball strikers are better, and she is one of those people. Even though you think of her as a midfielder, she is an excellent ball striker, and she did play striker some and forward some this past World Cup. But yeah, no, what she did is, I'm not going to say there are very few women that can do it. They just have to have a really strong leg, and obviously she does. To me, to think that a woman could not play football is ludicrous. I think if at kicker, she could absolutely play in the NFL.
Is there, in all seriousness, is there somebody in women's soccer that is sort of considered the Janikowski of that sport? That they have just an absolute cannon for a leg? And is that Carly Lloyd?
Yeah, it's a good question. Soccer's so different, but occasionally you'll watch somebody kick a goal from midfield and you think, and actually score off of it. So kick a ball from midfield but actually score. And you think, yeah, that's crazy. So certainly she's one of those people. I'd say probably Megan Rapinoe also, and certainly Rose Lavelle, who I talked about a lot throughout the Women's World Cup. I think if she lined up, she could also kick a 55-yard field goal.
Could they go from, you think, 65?
I think they said Carly tried from a little bit farther and she didn't make it, but these are people who have never really practiced this.
Yeah.
So I think with time, and if Carly Lloyd started at the age of 18 or 22, let's say, then I think she'd be able to. It's not like driving the golf ball where the men and women's drivers are significantly different, going significantly different distances.
That's interesting, because it's not like, it's club speed with men hitting a softball or a baseball or golf, they can generate more club speed than a woman can, but it's not, it must not be, if she made a 55-yarder.
Right, no, it's very
Even the
similar.
cannon leg kickers don't make it from that much farther.
Right,
You know?
no, I think the leg strength is very similar.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say, like, it would seem like from knee to hip, men and women anatomy is not all that different, whereas with the golf I can sort of see it, because men tend to have broader
And the
shoulders
torque,
and
yeah.
a little bit more, so not just the speed, but, maybe a little bit more upper body power, but in terms of just leg power, I wouldn't think that it's night and day.
Well, the fact that she made a 55-yarder proves it's not night and day. That's the proof of that.
Right.
I mean, because it's not like the woman's longest one is 40 and the man's longest is 60. 55, okay. Yes, could the cannon leg kickers in practice make 65 or 70? Probably, but that's not that much further. It's amazing to me that she could come out, girl, guy, whatever, someone who doesn't play football, I don't care what sport they play, could go make a 55-yard field goal. But I've also said this, it's comical now how good the kickers are. Back in the day, a field goal wasn't an automatic. Now, honestly, it used to be if you missed a field goal, it's like missing a free throw. Now if you miss a field goal, it's like missing a layup. You know that? If you miss a field goal, missing a field goal from inside 40 yards is the equivalent of a basketball player missing an uncontested layup. Right?
Yeah.
I never thought we'd see that. It's like missing a layup. It's amazing how many if you don't make 9 out of every 10 in the NFL, you're not gonna be on a roster, which is pretty amazing stuff. We'll take a break, got a lot more to do. When we come back, two topics I wanna get to. This waiver thing, and a little bit later on about Felipe Franks and his relationship with the Gator Nation. All that coming up. Stay with us on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the law offices of Brett Hastings Studio on 1010XL.
We'll do Nimnik next break. I'm just gonna have to replace some recorded stuff. They've jammed so many live spots into these
That's
hours
fine.
because of the
That's
game
okay.
Thursday,
Yeah,
so I'm
that's
just
all
gonna
right.
play a lot of tape
You
stuff.
can play all my tape if you want.
Okay. Hater's on for a 2-out.
But not all
Oh no, please don't.
I'll roll do live, that's right. That's cool.
Unless he has Petty in it.
I actually just played the tape by Hummer, but it's the one from yesterday.
Okay.
So he's
that's
talking
fine.
about Tom
Yeah,
Petty.
as long as it's that, that's fine.
Come on, Josh Hader, I need you, man. He's on for a 2-inning save. Trying to win this money. Come on, baby. Gosh, I have done something to my knee. I've stretched out my ligaments or something. I can't bend my knee fully. I badly sprained my MCL. It was like a grade 3
Ooh.
or so in high school, and it hasn't hurt me since then. Obviously, it's been a while ago, but so like I was crouching down the other day, and now it's starting to hurt.
That's not good. Ask one of the athletic trainers at the
Yeah.
high school game on Friday.
I need to. Can't extend it fully without hurting.
Check out the award-winning Honda Accord or Honda CR-V, now leased from $249 per month. You'll love our great selection of used cars and trucks. Duval Honda, we deliver on price, we deliver on service, we deliver to you. Closest Duval dealer is in your driveway. Duval Honda on Cassett Avenue and DuvalHonda.com.
Community First Credit Union wants you to stash your cash. Is that like putting your money where your mouth is?
Thank you
the team across there just railed against this Carly Lloyd thing. This pisses me off.
I don't know. I didn't hear it this time, but I don't get it.
It's just, it's such a violent anger thing. I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. It's,
I bet he seems like kind of a dark person. And I don't
agree.
agree at all,
No, I
but
totally agree. And I think he's got both qualities that Lamb has been railed against. Sexism and racism. And it's the difference that I run shows. If he's not careful, it's gonna, his mouth is gonna get in trouble, like serious trouble. And it, as the only female person, it pisses me off to hear one of our own say, oh, female football players dumb. Like, say, I'd love to see it because I don't think it can work.
Right.
That is, I think that's fine. I would like to just see if it can actually work, but to say that it's dumb, it's like, since when was the last time we talked about a kicker getting brutally
Destroyed,
hit?
yeah,
Right,
right.
like, yes, they sometimes have injuries.
Yeah.
What's his face, even Carson Tinkers was like done like on the side of practice one day.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not
a
even a
long
kicker, but,
side,
right,
yeah.
just as far as
A
that.
lot of the kickers get out of that. Get out of that fucking way. I
Right.
mean, they don't.
Yeah, they don't hit.
I mean, yeah.
The punters more often will tackle somebody because the punt return is so different,
Yeah.
like.
I mean, even
and-
Peyton Manning used to just go to the ground if he thought he was getting sacked. I mean,
Right.
that's not unheard of
avoid
in football.
injury.
It's
Right.
just get down. Like,
And kickoffs may end up going away in
Yeah.
football anyway, so, but yeah, it's been, like, makes my blood boil.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I don't get why it would be.
We're here for 11 o'clock. For the TV show.
Got it. So what time is crew call?
Well, 10:55.
Okay.
Laser hair removal is such a simple thing to do. Their simple treatments will destroy hair.
I don't mean to bring up politics, but I'm seeing this tweet, USCIS confirms, as of October 29th, children born to US service members outside of the US will no longer be automatically considered citizens.
That can't be.
It's a verified tweet, and Peter King has quote tweeted it and said, "This is insane." It's a
What
woman
happened?
named Haley Britsky.
That can't possibly.
Their parents will have to apply for citizenship on their behalf.
So a couple, one's from Little Rock, Arkansas, another one's from Topeka, Kansas, are in the military, have a baby, it's
Outside
born
the
in the
military.
Philippines.
Yeah.
That baby's not an American citizen?
Yes.
That'll never happen.
Will no longer be automatically considered citizens. It's as of October 29th.
There's some
I mean-
stupid fucking people. You know?
Yeah.
I only saw it, like I said, I don't follow politics, but I only saw it because Peter King quote tweeted it and said, "This is insane, what right
Well,
wing
it is,
American would
if
support
it's
this."
not true.
Yeah.
I would think there's no
Bring it back to
chance
the,
that that'd be something that, cause it would piss off the military, which is the last thing he wants. But I don't really follow it either, but that seems like just beyond belief.
I don't think the weather's gonna affect this thing at all. It's still 100 miles offshore Sunday morning. You got here long?
Sorry, what did you want me to bring it back to?
Let's do the transfer thing. You got transfer with the waiver.
Oh, the Brock Huffman, he's not coming.
But any of those, bring it back.
The one who didn't get approved yesterday, Brock
Yeah, just
Huffman?
general talk.
It's a kitchen and flooring design center Wednesday on the Frangie Show on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Head to floorsandkitchen.com if you want to update anything in your house like floors, kitchens, bathrooms, and closets. Frank Hayes, Gibby and Lauren with you until 6 p.m. This evening, we're going to talk a little bit about the NCAA. I think you could say, and I think Hayes has said it in one of his hammer times, that the NCAA at times seems to make decisions that none of us can actually figure out where they're coming from. And you could almost use the phrase moronic decisions.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, the waiver, what are they doing? I mean, you're either eligible or you're not. And I do think we're headed toward 1 year blanket transfer with no sit-out rule, which I think is where we should be headed. I think that's the idea that's gonna take, is one time you can change schools and not have to sit out. Now that in and of itself will cause some concerns, because what if a guy leaves right away, right after he signs, has he used up his one? Which I get, I mean, guy signed in February, coach leaves February 20th, guy immediately leaves from Michigan and goes to Cal, did he use up his one? But that's a different story. What in the world? So the Luke Ford guy goes from Georgia to Illinois because his grandparent is ailing, and he's not eligible. Who's the other guy, Lauren? Brock
Hoffman.
Brock Hoffman went where to where?
From Coastal Carolina to Virginia Tech, and he was moving about 105 miles
For a parent.
away from his mom, who had a non-cancerous brain tumor removed a few years ago, and she still suffers from facial paralysis, some eyesight issues,
Yeah.
and other things.
And he's not eligible.
Because he was 5 miles outside of the radius, and because according to the NCAA, his mother's condition is improving.
Yeah, and the Tennessee guy who just got eligible, Tate Martell got eligible immediately, because, he sneezed and Urban Meyer didn't say God bless you. And then, I mean, what are we doing? Right? What are we doing? I mean, it's, don't be stupid. Well, what's happened now is the NCAA, look, everybody makes fun of the NCAA. And you wanna defend them because I love college sports, but I get to the point where I'm like, why are you doing it to yourself? We don't wanna mock and make fun of how stupid you are, but you make it where we can't help it sometimes. You just can't say, because what happens is a bunch of people get in a room and they vote. It's not like there's one arbiter that decides. A bunch of people get in a room and I think it's different people in different rooms. It's just comical. It's unbelievable.
It is, the inconsistency in these decisions, it's striking, and it has, opened them up for criticism. I wonder, cause I wanna say on the timeline that Luke Ford was denied, and I think the player that you're talking about, Lauren, that went to Virginia, went to Virginia Tech, but didn't get the immediate eligibility. I think they were decided after Tate Martell. And one of my biggest complaints with the NCAA is it seems like they have rabbit ears. They are incredibly thin-skinned, and I think they took criticism nationally for Tate Martell receiving immediate eligibility. And look, he got eligible. You know, I think, Frank, you hit the nail on the head. He got eligible because his dad was probably gonna sue him.
That's right.
And it was gonna cost them a bunch of money to defend it. And they
It's
were
the
like,
whole reason.
why would we spend money to defend this? Let's just make him eligible.
I think there's no doubt in my mind that's why he's playing for Miami.
And then they got criticized for making him eligible, so then I think they came down harder on legitimate cases where, I mean, come on, 5 miles, you're gonna deny a request? I mean, give me a break. That is the difference of about 3.5 minutes in terms of a drive. I mean, depending on, you know, with the speed limit, obviously, but, it doesn't make any sense. And I think they would be doing themselves a favor to go ahead and put in the everybody can transfer once rule, because what's going to happen, they are allowing so many of these to be approved with the immediate eligibility that everybody's gonna appeal. Like Florida had a couple basketball kids, or at least I think one from Louisiana Tech, and maybe it was just the one.
No, there's two, Cleveland State, the
Oh,
point
that's
guard,
right.
and the forward from Louisiana.
That's right, and neither one of them applied for why would you not apply for immediate
Right.
eligibility?
Well, that one I can answer, it's a little bit different, but you're right, why wouldn't anybody try and get eligible immediately?
So I think the climate that they're gonna be looking at is every single transfer, for the most part, is gonna appeal. And the NCAA is usually criminally understaffed when it comes to these things. So at some point, if you've gotta decide hundreds of cases in basically a 5-6 month window, you can't possibly investigate that. You're gonna have to totally rely on what the schools tell you and what the kid tells you. And I think at that point, you're better off just saying, you know what, we're gonna give everybody one, but once you've used it, don't come back to us.
Because we
You're
have-
not getting anything else from us.
We have to take this subjective, what mood the committee is in that day out of play. This is people's lives, and it can't vary this much.
No, it should absolutely be one rule across the board, and the most recent one is Aubrey Solomon. That's the one who left Michigan, went to Tennessee. And I would do the same thing. No one said what his case entailed. Why would you? If it in any way, shape, or form might have the NCAA vote against you, then you don't ever say it publicly.
Well, even that kid, Aubrey Solomon, he went from Michigan to Tennessee in December, and he found out this week he's eligible. What in the world took so long?
Yeah.
He made it. This kid went to Tennessee. Didn't know they were going to have him from December. He got there in January for the winter semester. They didn't know they were going to have him until this week. Now, how can that be?
Yeah.
What new information came up? I mean, it's amazing.
It is amazing, and it affects how the kid practices, and I mean, it has to. It has to affect that. Am I, is this the day? I mean, think of all the time and energy spent for the student athlete in this situation, wondering about his case, and that should have all been taken off his shoulders. I would imagine that was an incredible burden to carry, waiting for that decision to come down.
And if you're the coach and you don't think you're going to have him eligible, you're not going to give him first team snaps.
Well, that's a big part of it.
And then that kid really gets punished because the NCAA hasn't decided.
Let's take a break. When we come back, let's keep it on college football. Will Gator fans ever like Felipe Franks? Or is Felipe doing enough to keep them from ever embracing him? That and more when we continue. Stay with us.
The Frangie Show, live from the law offices of Brett Hastings Studio on 1010XL.
Laura, can you do Publix real quick? I've got Frank's, and then,
Sure thing.
about 1 minute.
You're doing Publix.
Yeah, it's a month.
Huh?
I think it's just a month.
It's not me, it's over you.
Correct.
Where are you gonna find savings like that? You get a Chevrolet. Where in the world, right now, get the Nivik Chevrolet on Cassidy Park?
If you think of something for what Florida, so I'm just reminding you.
Up to $15,000 off a 2019 Chevy Silverado Crew Cab. I'm driving a Silverado right now, absolutely love it. Up to $9,000 off a 2019 Chevy Colorado. Up to $10,000 off a 2019 Chevy Equinox. That is part of the summer super sale going on right now at Nivik Chevrolet on Cassett Avenue in Park. Get there today, get a ride you'll love. Nivik, your friends in the car business.
You could do Pete Alonso.
All right, after this, 10 seconds.
Okay.
More Jacksonville sports then.
Chance of Duval at a Jags game. 1010XL.
Fall and football create the best season of the year, and I have almost everything I need to root for my favorite team. All I'm missing is the ultimate game day meal. Luckily, Publix, the official supermarket of the Jaguars, is bringing back the Jaguar sub for a limited time. With the Publix Deli hot chicken tenders, boar's head bacon, cheddar cheese, sweet coleslaw, and barbecue mayonnaise on a white sub roll, and that will all be so good because I won't miss kickoff. I can place my order online for in-store pickup. Go to Publix.com/JagSub to get your Jaguar sub. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Currently driving a Nissan, Toyota.
Just realized it's not written properly.
You what?
So I just realized it's not written properly. It starts the sentence with but then it doesn't give a back half of the sentence.
On the Frangie Show.
Let's good. Let's take a break.
The Fr-
If you're having early signs of ED or are currently taking medications for it, core wave therapy may be for you. This is Dr. West, board certified neurologist. Core wave therapy is a non-invasive sound wave therapy used to treat as a potential long-term solution.
So did Chad send you the Jesse Combs thing for helmets and heels?
Yeah.
I just saw it's on CBS News.
I think it's a pretty big deal. Yeah. She's extremely famous, I'm guessing, in that community
Oh.
of racing.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up today.
How did you know about it? Ah.
It doesn't really say exactly what.
Just said she crashed right, and I was trying to figure out if she's on a desert road, how do you crash?
Man, as soon as it got out of control, it flipped. I mean, I think that's what's going so fast, I thought the wind resistance flipped. I don't know that, that was my assumption.
On the Best Bet Poker Show.
She's Pretty.
Wednesday at 6 p.m. on 1010XL.
I got Zagaki's call of Frank's rushing touchdown. It's his call because that's who he aired.
That's all.
But I'll come back with that.
By the way, after your thing on Harper last night, Pirates up 5-4, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. Vasquez, who's making about $7 million a year. Harper, who's making what, 36? Hayes, he didn't have a strike.
Really?
He didn't have. He missed the third strike last foot. I mean, Vasquez pitching to Harper. I was so wrong like him. He truly looked overmatched. The highest paid guy in baseball can have a bad year, bad game, shouldn't look overmatched.
Yeah.
He literally looked. Now Vasquez is the best reliever,
Right.
but he looked overmatched. I'm telling you, it was. I was thinking about you, and that was a good hammer time. Quick to the point. Your first sentence said it, and then you were in and out. That was really good. That was really good. But it was. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. He missed it by this much. He missed it by a foot. He threw a curve. He threw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball one time. And I thought, wow, $6 million guy just threw that thing by a $36 million guy. It wasn't even close. And you know what? Here's how bad it was. I knew it was strike now. I didn't turn it off. I didn't turn the TV off. I mean, that's how bad.
It's hard, those contracts.
Even the broadcaster said, he was overmatched. The highest paid guy in baseball was overmatched.
I just can't believe. I remember when I was a kid, if you hit 28 home runs,
Yeah, well,
you wouldn't
that-
be like top
that
five.
whole
but-
world's changed.
I mean, but Jesus, that there were 30?
I was shocked.
This
I was
1010
shocked
XL
too.
92.5 FM hour is powered by HR and Levine Accident Deterrent. Call 904-600-4000. That's 904-600-4000.
It's the Kitchen and Flooring Design Center Wednesday on the Frangie Show on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Frank thinks that they're running up the middle. What do you think, Frank?
That's what he does best.
Driving into the end zone. 8-18 to play the game. Florida reclaims the lead. 23 this point.
That was a call of Joe Zagacki on Miami radio. Franks took it in there, and the Gators went on to win the game. The Gator fans are all down on Felipe again. Everywhere you look. Hayes, will they ever like him? Because I thought they liked him all off season, and I thought he had won Gator fan over, but he didn't play well. It's only one game. They won the game. He threw for 250 yards. He counted for 3 touchdowns. He did make 2 really bad plays. But I wonder, is it the swagger that they don't like? Is it the combination of, if you're gonna swagger, you better be good? Is it just the erratic play that they've had their fill of? Because, look, I was frustrated with how Florida played. But at no point did I think it's time to go to the bullpen. This is his team this year. Will they ever love him?
I don't know that they will ever love him because I don't think he's ever going to win anything of consequence. And so, because of that, because I think he will ultimately probably always fail in the biggest game. I say always fail, but Florida's not going to win them all. And I think this is, it's really tough. Dan Mullen's talked about this before. Being the starting quarterback at the University of Florida is one of the toughest jobs that you can have in all of sports. I don't think he's wrong in that because there is such a high standard of quarterback play when you look at Spurrier and Warfel and Tebow, Shane Matthews. I mean, there has been so many great guys that have done it. Rex Grossman had a couple phenomenal years for the Gators. So Florida fans are used to seeing it look really good. and when it doesn't look really good, I think the standard's been dropped because there has been such a drought since Tebow graduated. But I think Gator fans still look at Felipe Franks more in the Jeff Driscoll, the mediocre mold than they do somebody like in Shane Matthews' class. And I don't think they're wrong in that. So I think he can get there, but it's going to take elevating. Felipe Franks cannot throw the knockout punch, and that's what's holding him back. We talked about it before the Miami game. They could have had FSU beat at halftime last year. It didn't happen. They kept him around. Same thing we saw in the bowl game. Now, he played well in the second half of those games, but if Felipe Franks and, thusly the Gators are going to really elevate to becoming a dangerous team, you've got to throw the knockout punch early. You can't be up 7-3 and get to the opponent's 7-yard line and mishandle an exchange. You just can't do it. And then get the ball back at your opponent 40 after the defense does its job in a sudden change and goes and gets a 3 and out. And then be indecisive on your pitch, which then creates another turnover. I mean, those are the things that I think is the biggest thing for Felipe. He's had a lot of growth, but he needs to have more of that assassin mentality that great quarterbacks have, where they know they're going to come out and this game's going to be over halfway through the second quarter because we're going to score a touchdown on our first 3 drives, and you're going to have to respond to that. I don't think he has that yet, and again, I think it's probably more his skill set and his football awareness than it is any sort of mentality necessarily. But that's the next step for Felipe Franks. When you get in those situations, you have to put good teams behind by double digits early.
The best quarterbacks at Florida, none of them have the swagger like he has it. So I would answer, if you're going to have swagger, you better be good. But I think they even expect their quarterback to be really good and still not have swagger. And certainly Felipe has that. But they'll forgive that, and they will absolutely love him if he can beat one team this season.
Yeah,
And that's
Georgia.
the Georgia Bulldogs.
Yeah, good point, good call, and good call about the fact that the other guys were understated, emotionally understated. They weren't chest pounders. But here's the thing. You know what I think bothers them? Florida is not and has never been explosive under Felipe Franks. He's never had a 300-yard game. They're not going up and down the field. To what you just said, I don't think that. Now, is that Felipe? Is that Dan Mullen's offense? Is that, he said the day he got the job, we're not going to tell you, we're not going to snap it 90 times a game. We're not that kind of a spread. We're a physical spread. So I don't know if that's the way Dan calls the game or that's the way Felipe plays. But what they're not is explosive. Now, they may have a player make an explosive play. Kadarius Toney made an explosive play on a little wide receiver screen. LaMichael Piron got loose for 70 yards against FSU, but that wasn't a sign of an explosive offense. That was an individual play, both times, individual players making explosive plays. I think Florida fans, all fans, but Florida, because they became used to it, are used to their teams being explosive. They're not explosive. Even when Florida beats you, they're going to wear you down and beat on you. And if somebody gets loose, it's going to be because it's late in the game and you got tired. Or it's just well executed by the player and the blockers like with Toney on Saturday. I think that's a big part of it. I think if he could pound his chest and wag his finger a little bit, even if he throw an interception or two, but then if he led 4 quick touchdown drives and 2 of them are long bombs and 2 of them are corner routes and all of a sudden they went from up 20-17 to up 42-17, if all of that happened, then I think they fall in love with him. So I think he's a plotter. He's a good player. He had a bad game, but he certainly played better last year. But the methodical nature of how he plays and how they play keeps you from falling in love with the quarterback. That's what I think is a big part of it.
Yeah, and Florida is a style point school because of the king of style points, Steve Spurrier.
Right.
And I think it's hard for Gator fans that lived through the Spurrier era, to not see the explosives. To your point, so I think I think there's still a lot of chapters in this book to be written, and I'm not even sure he comes out. I am curious to see if this is sort of who he is this year, then I wouldn't come out. I mean, now I don't know if know, if he may just want to be done with college in general, but, you know, it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because he has the talent. I think he has the quarterback guru to make him great, and I think he's got enough around him to where they can be great. And they should have been great the other night. I mean, if he doesn't mess up the exchange, if he hits the touchdown there, you're 14-3. Miami, I think at that point it would have been interesting to see how they responded. But at that, you know, Florida's defense had sort of made the adjustments. I think they were a little bit taken back on the initial drive by how Dan Enos attacked them, but I think they had sort of figured it out. And I think it becomes a little bit of a different game, but that's what's going to hold him back. Is it seems like there's a little bit of fear of success with Felipe early, where it's when things are going well, it's almost like he says to himself, well, this can't possibly be going this well. And then something happens and there's a mental error. And again, what was so disappointing the other night against the Hurricanes is they were both totally unforced errors, the fumbles. The exchange you just can't have happen. And and again, he was indecisive on the pitch. He is too old of a player to be indecisive on a play like that.
We'll see more about them. They don't play very fast. We'll see if that winds up changing. Let's get into Jaguars football on the other side of the break. All right, our last hour before the final preseason game. What do you want to see? For whom is this game important? What do you want to see from Gardner Minshew, who in all likelihood will start the game again? He'll start all three of the four Jaguars preseason games at quarterback. All that and more when we continue. It's 1010 XL and 92.5 FM.
The Frangie Show, live from the law offices of Brett Hastings Studio on 1010 XL and 92.5 FM.
Now, 1010 XL takes
Sam's
you.
replacement.
Did you track that one down?
I did. Madeline had said her name, and then I reached out to her.
We need someone like that.
Right, I don't know.
Hey sports fans, this is Hayes Carline. The college football season has started and the NFL isn't far off. That means it's time to bet, win, and get paid at mybookie.ag. Mybookie.ag has more odds and more prop bets than any other sports book. I can tell you nobody pays out faster. You get your cash when you want it. We've got some great games. Thursday night, Georgia Tech is a 37-point underdog at Clemson. That is quite enticing. Right here in Jacksonville, Florida State, a 4.5-point favorite over Boise State on Saturday. Georgia is giving 21.5 points at Vandy. And the Jaguars are a 4-point underdog to visiting Kansas City on September 8th. Sign up now and MyBookie will double your first deposit up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 in free money. Use promo code RADIO to get that offer. You play, you win, you get paid at mybookie.ag.
I get an email this morning from AT&T. Changes to your AT&T device protection plan. Good news, we're changing to this new plan. And then in fine print, your monthly charge will increase from $12 to $15. Like, don't you ask me if I want to upgrade before you just tell me you're gonna be charging me? I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's only $3.
Yeah.
But that's still like, you already charged me fucking enough, AT&T.
Right.
Oh.
You just can't, you gotta knock out punch early. Felipe Franks and, us, same thing, we said, the knockout punch. Like, I think he can get there, but the mediocre mold than they do somebody, Jeff Driscoll. I think Gator fans still look at Felipe, Gator fans, I think Gator fans still look at Felipe Franks more in the Acewood.
NFL